Good evening and welcome to Bronx Talk. Tonight's guest is the chair of the Bronx Democratic County Committee and also the state senator from the 36th Senatorial District, which includes the Bronx neighborhoods of Co-op City, Wakefield, Woodlawn, Pelham Gardens, Edenwald, Eastchester, and Baychester, also the Westchester city of Mount Vernon. We've got a lot to talk with him about tonight, so I'm not going to take any extra time. Let's get right to it. Please join me in welcoming back to Bronx Talk Senator from the 36th SD. It is Senator Jamaal Bailey. Nice to have you with us, sir.
Gary, happy to be back.
Well, let's just get right to it. Start with the second presidential term for Donald Trump. So what's your reaction to the inauguration and subsequent rather long list of executive actions and pardons? What are you thinking about now?
I think it's troubling. You as an American, you don't want to root for the institution of the presidency to fail. Because we would not be functioning elected officials or functioning people if we wanted the institution to fail. But I can't support in any good conscience someone like Donald Trump, who has shown within a week of his inauguration that he has little to no respect for diversity, scrapping the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, putting those folks on paid leave and eventually laying them off. Scrubbing the Spanish language website of the White House is something that has happened within the last week. And so just like if you buy a Gucci shirt for $1, you get what you pay for. When you voted for him, this is what you got. And now we're facing this unique position where we have to fight at the state level and the municipal level to make sure we're fighting against all of these ridiculous pardons. These treasonous individuals from January 6th who should be remaining incarcerated were released. Those, purportedly pro-law enforcement president releasing individuals who committed assaults in battery on police officers.
Not to mention climbed the walls of the Capitol building.
Storm the Capitol. Like, this isn't a video game. This isn't Grand Theft Auto. This is real life. And what's happening here is that we're pardoning these ridiculous behaviors and just saying they're calling them patriots. Patriots are the officers who were assaulted that day. Patriots are not the individuals who stormed the Capitol.
Oh, there was a quote, and we have it. I pulled it up. It came from Representative Jeffries. House Republicans are celebrating pardons issued to a bloodthirsty mob that violently assaulted police officers on January 6th. What happened to backing the blue? Far-right extremists have become the party of lawlessness and disorder. Don't ever lecture America again about anything. And that was Hakeem Jeffries. Do you think the voices of Democrats in response have been loud enough at this point?
I think they are loud, and they will increasingly get loud. But I think it's not just about the level of volume. It is the right pitch. It is making sure you strike the right tone when the right tone needs to be, when you need to strike the right tone. Like, for example, there are things that we're going to have to work with Republicans in Washington on, right? Those of us in the Bronx and in Westchester and throughout the state, we want to make sure that the salt deductions come back. So we're going to have conversations with them. We can't yell at them to say, hey, bring it back. We can have a different tone. But when it's time to talk about overt disrespect, when it's time to talk about the insurrection, yes, it is, Leader Jeffries, the tone is right, the volume is right, and it can get louder when we're talking about these deportations. It can get louder when we're talking about these mass actions. We need to know, we know what voice we have to take. We will be speaking out, but it's about striking the right tone at the right time.
At the right time. What do colleagues in the Senate across the aisle say? I'm sure you've had, and you were chair of the Codes Committee. Yeah. You had lots of dialogues about, they blamed you, of course, for a lot of the crime going up. Do you have the sense that they're like, well, I guess we have to tolerate this, or they actually support it, or the dialogue, and now we're only January, the dialogue hasn't really started
I
yet?
think they're a little emboldened.
They feel emboldened.
I think they're a little excited about the second term of this Trump presidency and what it can mean for them and some of their friends and colleagues being placed in influential positions where they'll have a sympathetic ear. You have an Elise Stefanik who would be a sympathetic ear to some of the Senate Republicans. Right. Mark Molinaro's name and Anthony D'Esposito, their names are being floated about as having Lee Zeldin is going to be in the administration. So you have people who either served in the body or have nexus to the body. So I think they're a little excited about it. But, it's making sure that you you separate the people from the politics sometimes, and some good folks on the other side of the aisle, but sometimes things that they're believing in, and I even have conversations with that. It's like, is this really what you can believe in?
Is this what you support?
Is this truly what you support? Not the party, but the platform.
Let's just look back briefly at the election, because there were, frankly, some of your colleagues were here concerned about how the Democratic Party handled it in New York and specifically in the Bronx. I pulled up some of the numbers from the presidential election. You can see them there. Biden-Harris in 2020 got 83% of the vote, and Trump and Pence got 15.9% in 2020. In 2024, even though, of course, in the Bronx, Democrats prevailed, Harris-Walz got 72%. That's a drop of 12%, and that other 12% went to Trump and Vance. What do you attribute that to? The fact that the numbers went up for Republicans and down for Democrats in the heavily Democratic Bronx?
So we have to parse that out a little bit, right? So total vote share, the percentage-wise, you're correct, but Democrats didn't come out in numbers like they did in 2020, right? We had a inspiration problem, right? Folks didn't come to the polls as much as they should have, right? We needed more Democrats to come out. We needed more individuals to come at record levels to make sure we combated what was happening in Washington. Now, make no mistake about it, some individuals, their minds have been changed in terms of supporting this ticket, but I would hope that within the last week that you'd have buyer's remorse if you decided to vote for Trump, Pence.
Realities would hit hard.
The reality has set in that what you thought or what you might have thought, and I can never get in the mind of any voter, and I can never tell a voter exactly what to do. That's far be it from me to do. But what I can say is this: if you voted for Trump, thinking that he was going to bring those grocery prices down, he already said he can't do that. If you voted for Trump thinking that he was going to have this new embracing of equity for people of color, he scrubbed the Spanish language website from the White House within 1 week.
And
what is he going to do?
Very serious instructions about DEI to federal employees,
and it's
threatening them, frankly.
Saying that you're going to have to go. And that if you were here, because diversity is what makes the Bronx great, it's what makes this country great. The merit of this country is her people and the diversity of. And to scrap that within 1 week and to do executive orders, which again are going to take us through a lot of litigation in court and in birthright citizenship. Birthright citizenship, something that is within the Constitution, the 14th Amendment. Now, by virtue of an executive order, one man can say that birthright citizenship is gone, something that has been enshrined in the Constitution. You get what you pay for.
You know, it's interesting. I guess, what are we, about 8 or 10 minutes into the program? And as we go on, you remember yet another item that, oh, by the way, there's this. It somewhat seems never ending. Back to the Bronx, though. A couple of your colleagues were here over the course of time and expressed disappointment that Trump was here twice and Kamala Harris never was here. And they also felt that the Democratic Party was did not really speak to Hispanic voters. Have you thought about that? Have you heard that? Is this the first you're hearing it?
Oh no, this is something that I've heard.
I'm assuming you've heard it from them before I heard it from them.
And look, as Democrats, we have to message better, and we have to show people that we are a big tent party. We're not a monolith, and I think that's one of the greatest things about our party is that you can have dissenting views. It's okay to feel different about this or that, because as Democrats, we come from different areas and different walks of life, but we come together because we believe in the Democratic Party and the values thereof. We could do a better job at messaging. We can always do a better job at messaging, especially to Latino voters, especially to voters of color. We saw some erosion in black men as well to the Republican Party, in addition to Latinos across the board. So it's showing people that the Democratic Party is the party of economic stability. You wouldn't believe it by virtue of the messaging that's out there, but you would believe that the Biden administration would leave the economy in shambles. This is one of the strongest economies that this country has had in years. Yet the messaging would have you believe otherwise, and we got to message that better.
So for you, in a way, the lesson has been in part messaging, that we didn't quite message it Exactly right. And I've said it on this show a number of times, that inflation was down before the election. The price of gas was seriously down before the election. And, we heard a lot of talk about women's rights, not to minimize the importance of those, and some other issues, but they didn't hear that before the election. That's the kind of messaging that it struck me that was missing.
We have to focus on affordability in kitchen table issues, as they say. We have to focus on,
and that wasn't really done as well.
It wasn't done as well as we could, right?
That's fair.
And it's important to show people, not just assume that people know what's happening. And sometimes what we do, we rest on our laurels and we say, you know what, our folks should know the work that we're doing. They should know the bills that we're passing and the efforts that we're making in the city and state and the federal budgets. But it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we do more than mail to you twice a year and more than just post on social media. It's about showing you a consistent message that we are working hard, we are trying, and we are doing our damnedest to make sure that you, the people that we represent, are taken care of well.
Are you concerned that Mayor Adams seems to be kowtowing to the president over the fact that he believes that he also was the victim of a Justice Department attack in some of his investigations?
It's hard for me to say what Mayor Adams believes, and he's entitled to his belief system about that, and he has been vocal about that. Look, what we need the mayor to do is to lead the city, and we need the mayor to focus on leading the city. And I can't be concerned about his thoughts process about Trump or Tucker Carlson or anybody else. I need him to be focused on leading the city and moving us forward and making sure that we have places for people to live and things for people to do.
And certainly respect. I mean, to me, it's about respect for the Justice Department and our system that, weighs the balance of things. I've got to ask you about this. The New York Focus report said that the Bronx Democratic Party has failed to disclose more than $400,000 in campaign contributions. You know all about it. Your response was that the omission was due to inaccurate record keeping and that the party would move forward with better practices in the future. There was no impropriety, nothing wrong. We simply didn't file when we were supposed to, is what your quote was. Do you want to weigh in on that entire experience, that entire investigation by New York Focus?
Well, as I indicated before, Gary, we didn't file the proper formwork, and that's what got us. And that's what got got that initial
raise their ire, yes.
Raise the ire, and that was the only thing that was done, even a modicum of not right. I don't even want to say wrong. We didn't file it timely. Again, there were no omissions. There was nothing that was hidden. There was nothing that we were trying to obfuscate.
Went into somebody's pockets.
Not in the least bit. Not at all. There has been no wrongdoing, no impropriety. Nothing at all, and we put that behind us, and we're looking forward towards 2025 and trying to make sure that we continue to do well as a party.
And so for you, this is a past tense. I just wanted to put it on the table because it was out there. But for you now, this matter is done.
Well, I mean,
and you've made the corrections that are necessary.
We've made the corrections. We'd like to move forward. Everything that we've done has been not only, and I know you covered it on the show, and it was indicated on the show. Even when the questions were asked, that there was no propriety, there was nothing approaching impropriety. So this whole conversation, I believe, is moot, and I think that we can move forward, and I think that it's important for us as a party to do it.
Let's get you to put your senator's hat on. You were the chair of the Codes Committee. Now you're the chair of the Insurance Committee. Is there something to say about the process that made that happen? Was that something you wanted? Was it just kind of in negotiation with the majority leader?
Oh, I spoke to the leader, and it was a change that I wanted.
A change that you wanted.
Yeah, I asked for a different committee, and it was, I had been the chair of the committee for 6 years. In 6 years, we did groundbreaking justice reform. Police reform, criminal justice reform, a lot of things that we did in this committee that changed the way that New Yorkers live, changed the way that rights were administered or adjudicated to individuals, and I'm incredibly proud of that work. But it's my 5th term now, and I was looking to do something a little different. I was looking to branch out and learn something a little bit more, and to have a larger scope and a larger footprint in the state senate, and this committee was something that I was excited about.
I realize that it's January, and I'm sure you haven't had sufficient committee meetings yet. What's on your mind that would be at the top of the list that needs attention from the Insurance Committee of the New York State Senate?
Examining affordability across the board. If we talk about kitchen table issues, affordability, when you speak to 9 out of 10 people, their auto insurance rates have gone up. Their homeowners insurance has gone up. If they've got pet insurance, it's probably gone up.
Excuse me, I'm smiling because I've just been wrestling with those new bills on my own in my living room.
And these are things that your average New Yorker, your average American wants to know why. And so, we're looking to hold hearings, we're looking to have conversations with these companies, and we're not looking to necessarily point fingers just yet, but we want to figure out why. How are you assessing risk, right? And one of the things I'm learning about insurance is that it's about the assessment of risk and the distribution thereof. How are you assessing that? Are you doing it fairly in our borough or not so much? Because I had a bill a couple years ago, even before I was the chair of the insurance committee, that talked about, how are insurance companies determining how rates go up. When I represented Tracy Towers, and I'm sad that they're no longer in my district, the rent went up significantly because insurance premiums went up significantly because you couldn't get individuals, or companies I should say, to insure the building, right? The pool of insurers has dried up. Why is that happening? And so, look, myself and my colleagues, and we're looking to make sure that we tackle this great affordability crisis, and we're hopefully going to get some good answers and get some cost relief for New Yorkers.
The way you couch that cuts right to the core of perception of the Bronx. And so, and I remember way back when I was getting my first automobile and all that, and I was searching out insurance, and it was like, oh, you're in the Bronx, and automatically my insurance rates were higher. Now, whether the risk was actually more or less in the Bronx, I certainly at that point wouldn't know. I guess that's the kind of thing you're talking about.
We're trying to examine it. We're trying to examine what are your underwriters looking at? What are your actuaries looking at? How are you assessing the risk? Is it based upon simply the zip code? Is it based upon the block? How do you come to it? And these companies are they're savvy. They know what they're doing, and they have these formulas. But I'd like to have a conversation with them and make sure that we have it on the record so that our constituents know what we're doing and why we're doing, and that we're fighting for them.
And certainly, when you get somewhere, we'll have you back, and we'll talk about that. One thing that's come up, and it come up frankly in my household, CVS owns Aetna, which to me sounds like double dipping. And when I was in high school and started learning about monopolies, it seems to me CVS, if they own Aetna, there's, with all of the prescriptions and all the other items that they sell in their stores, it seems to be it's double dipping. They could kind of own the whole concept if a marketer of medical supplies and prescriptions works with it owns an insurance company, not even works with, owns an insurance company, sounds problematic to me.
Well, on its face, again, having not examined the specific relationship,
I understand that. Sure.
On its face, sure, that could be problematic. But that's one of the things that we should be looking into, that we should be investigating. Now, obviously, that merger, having been approved, was already something that's set in stone and it's already there. But we can look at these patterns and practices between insurance companies and drug companies and providers. These are things that we can look into. And, again, we got to be mindful. We can't just point fingers, right?
Yes, I understand that. I brought it up because it's reality. But it does strike me as odd.
It is reality. It's like again, slightly before my time, the breaking up of the bells, my bell, and that the stranglehold that they had on the telephone company. Everything was the bells, and then broke up into the baby bells. Got to look into it.
Your colleague Gustavo Rivera has been working very hard, as you well know, on the Health Act. I'm assuming presuming he works to move it forward in the Senate, as I'm sure you know he will, that there's going to be some significant collaboration, because to create the kind of Health act and the health programs that they're talking about, they're going to have to work with you and the managing the insurance companies and figuring out how to put that together.
No, I'm a co-sponsor of the New York Health Act. I'm always happy to have a conversation with Senator Rivera. He's been working very hard on behalf of Bronxites in the health committee. So it's something that, healthcare is a human right, and how we get to that healthcare, how we make sure that everybody is covered, is a much more complicated question that involves a lot of different moving parts, as I'm learning now, getting into it and having conversations with different lines of insurance, and even within healthcare, even within health insurance, there are different types of health insurance, different types of coverages. So it's a lot of ground for me to cover. But I'm excited about the challenge, and I'm learning more.
And it will be interesting to see what your evaluation is of the New York State health programs, health insurance programs that are provided for many, many people. One thing I really hadn't thought about, and your staff, frankly, brought it up to me beforehand, is this fire on Wallace Avenue, which tragically, I think 275 people had to be, 250 people had to be relocated. Yeah. But that becomes a big insurance question. Correct. And in this day and age, when we have floods and tornadoes, so far not here, but who knows what will happen, hurricanes, the rates go up. In some cases, people have said, well, I had insurance, but I can't get in touch with the insurance company, and I don't even have a home or whatever it is. This is part of the dialogue, I guess.
I certainly believe it will become a larger part of the conversation as it relates to insurance, because now, that carrier, what rate will that be, right? And then when those tenants, hopefully, and again, the conversation about that building in the state of disrepair is a different conversation. But hopefully,
there was apparently an electrical
yes,
thing that caused the problem.
But however they get back, who knows if they're going to raise the insurance premiums on that building, and when those premiums get increased, that landlord, that property owner is not going to eat that. He's going to pass that on to the tenants. And the tenants, and that can make a difference. That can make a break a family's, quality of life, that increase in rent. And so, these are things that we're going to have to grapple with. If I may talk about the fire, I just want to talk about my colleagues in government and the outpouring that they've done. Borough President Gibson, Assembly Member Zaccaro, Councilmember Riley, and Congressmember Torres, we've all been working incredibly hard with the Allenton community and the merchants over there, trying to make sure that everyone is taken care of, and we're continuing to try to do as much as we can. This
has been, actually, you've hit on a question that not only in the Bronx, but we see these tragedies, certainly in California, all over the place, people losing their homes. There never seems to be, from the media point of view, a follow-up as to what happens to these people. And maybe you can be closer to it since you know about 250 people who had to be relocated. What happens to them? Do they get temporary housing? Do they have to simply go out and find a new place to live? Certainly if everything is destroyed, I can't even think of what you would do with your paperwork, that proves the various things that you've got.
And these are some of the harder things that we're trying to figure out right now. So right now,
it became a personal issue for you because it's
absolutely
right in your district.
It's right in the district, and that same day I went out there, I was there, and the day the fire happened. We're there. You're seeing the look of despair on the residents and PS 76, and I'm thankful to them for opening their doors. Red Cross stepped up, but now becomes the rebuilding part, and realizing that these individuals are hardworking New Yorkers, and their children are in schools in New York, and so figuring out where they're going to live past a certain date that's been given by the Red Cross is a difficult one. So we're working with HPD. We're trying to work with HCR. We're trying to figure out how do we get you more than just temporary hotel stays while your life has been completely upended by no fault of your own.
Who pays for those hotel stays?
Well, first it's through the Red Cross. Through the Red Cross. Okay. And going forward, we figure out a cost sharing mechanism, but with HPD or HCR to shoulder the load. But it's one of these things where this is where government should be working for people. When tragedies happen to people due to no fault of their own, yes, there is a level of individuality in seeking out places to live, but not in this case. Not when you lose your residence by no fault of anything that you've done. we've got to make sure that we continue to provide support.
And anybody, going back to the insurance question, anybody with insurance needs to make sure that they get their payments in a timely manner and that whatever they signed up for, they get. We only have a couple of minutes. Just curious, we can take a moment. I know it's a city issue, but City of Yes, did you think it was a good plan? Are you okay with it? Are you not happy with it? What's your thought?
Look, anything that's going to build more housing is something that I'm okay with on its face. Let's see exactly what the results are going forward. But look, we need more affordable housing. We need more housing in general. So anything that's going to spur housing stock is okay with me. But let's see how it plays out.
That's fair. One other item, the governor ultimately came through on congestion pricing. Did she do the right thing? Number one, in stopping it when she did, and number two, in lowering the price, but then putting it through.
Well, lowering the price was helpful from $15 to $9, right?
Makes it easier for you to justify it to constituents.
It makes it slightly easier, but the real justification for constituents, in my opinion, is going to be, especially those of us in the North Bronx, is okay. You're charging us to drive. Okay, but however you feel about that, let's put that aside. Are you going to give us the actual resources to make sure that this is worth our while? Because what's happening is, and I've spoken to Chairman Lieber about this, the Gun Hill Road train station, we've been seeing shuttle buses at the 5 train for 15 to 20 years. If you're going to charge us money, improve it so that my constituents can take the train on the weekend. Make sure that it is reasonable. Make sure that we do a lot of surface transit. The buses are working, that they're on time. Make it work for us.
That's really the bottom line, is if you're going to charge, the money should go to alternative ways for people to get to work and to do the things they want. Senator Jamaal Bailey, thank you so much. You know we're going to invite you again. You came in willingly, and we know that'll continue into the future.
Thank you, Gary, and let's go Mets. I know it's not popular in the Bronx, but let's go Mets.
All right, that's fair. You know I won't get an argument from me. You just revealed the whole thing about my personal life. We want to thank everybody, not only the senator and his staff. Our producer is Rebecca Hemick. Director is Will Guzman. Urellis Encarnacion is on graphics. Ian Neville on audio. That's the crew. The editor, Yenelsida Diaz. We have a cast of thousands. It's Joe and Mari here in the studio. And to you too, we love you, the people of the Bronx. So if the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, yes, we'll be back next week. Good night.